Hey guys, sorry for getting our devotions video out late today. Actually late this week. It's already Tuesday. I'm going to try to do a better job of being more consistent, getting it out every day this week. We're going to be jumping out of the book of Psalms tonight into the book of John. Our reading tonight is from John chapter 1 verses 1 through 5. John is really a great book to start with if you're new to the Bible, maybe you haven't read much of it. He was a younger guy, so he explains things pretty easily for us to understand. Really, the only difficult word from today's reading is out of verse 5. It's just the word comprehend, which you may already be familiar with, but the word means to understand. So the book of John obviously was written by the Apostle John. He was actually the youngest of Jesus' apostles. It's kind of his account of the gospel, letting us know about the stuff that happened while Jesus was alive, but from a different viewpoint than we get from Matthew and Mark and Luke. So let's take a look at these verses. All the way back to verse 1, it says, in the beginning, the first question I would ask is probably, in the beginning of what? And I think John's response would be the beginning of the beginning. He's saying all the way back in the beginning, even before the world was created. So what was there that far back? Well, the Word was there. So there was words back then? Is that what he's saying? Well, if you look, the word word is capitalized. Also, it says the word, not a word or some words. If you look further into this chapter, which we're not going to do today, we're actually going to get into towards the end of the week, we find out that the word is actually talking about Jesus. So what do we learn about Jesus from John chapter 1, verses 1 through 5? First, Jesus, or the Word, was in the beginning. He is older than the world, or even than space. Second, Jesus was with God. He was there doing whatever God was doing, which we'll find out what they were doing in just a minute. Third, Jesus was not only in the beginning and with God, but John tells us Jesus was actually a part of God. He is deity, meaning he's not just a man. Fourth, we see that it's not actually something that's stated, but it's something that's implied, is that Jesus is different from God. He is his own separate being. This idea is called the Trinity, the idea that there is one God, but three different parts to the same God. We're not going to get into that today, but again, that's the idea of the Trinity. Then John confirms in the next verse, Jesus was not just some carpenter, or a good teacher or friend. He existed before time with God. He says he was in the beginning with God. Fifth, he says, look around. Everything that you see around you was made by Jesus. See, God plans everything, and then Jesus is the one that makes it happen. Then, if you look down to verses 4 and 5, we see that Jesus is not only the creator of life, everything that was made, including you, was made by Jesus, but he is the giver of life too. While he first brought us physical life, he also brings spiritual or eternal life, which John is going to show us how to get through this book that we're going to be studying. So what about you? Who do you think that Jesus is? Have you heard about him like maybe just some other historical figure like George Washington or Abraham Lincoln? Maybe you've heard that he was just a good teacher, someone that talked about a lot of good things, but he really wasn't anything more than that. Maybe you've been told that he wasn't real at all, that the Bible is just a bunch of fairy tales, just a bunch of made-up stories like any other fiction book that you would read. In the next few weeks, we're going to be studying out who Jesus actually is, and I would encourage you to pray and ask God to help you during this study to be able to meet and understand the